Forgiving others is essential for spiritual growth. Your experience of someone who has hurt you, while painful, is now nothing more than a thought or feeling that you carry around. These thoughts of resentment, anger, and hatred represent slow, debilitating energies that will disempower you if you continue to let these thoughts occupy space in your head. If you could release them, you would know more peace. Below, I share how to forgive someone who has hurt you in 15 steps. Step 1, to move on to the next act. Your past history and all of your hurts are no longer here in your physical reality. Don't allow them to be here in your mind, mudding your present moments. Your life is like a play with several acts. Some of the characters who enter have short roles to play, others much larger. Some are villains and others are good guys. But all of them are necessary, otherwise they wouldn't be in the play. Embrace them all and move on to the next act. Step 2, to reconnect to spirit. Make a new agreement with yourself to always stay connected to spirit, even when it seems to be the most difficult thing to do. If you do this, you will allow whatever degree of perfect harmony that your body was designed for to proliferate. Turn your hurts over to God and allow spirit to flow through you. Your new agreement with reality, in which you've blended your physical self and your personality with your spiritual God-connected self, will begin to radiate a higher energy of love and light. Wherever you go, others will experience the glow of your God consciousness, and disharmony and disorder and all manner of problems simply will not flourish in your presence. Become an instrument of thy peace, as St. Francis desires in the first line of his famous prayer. Step 3, don't go to sleep angry. Each night as I drift off to sleep, I adamantly refuse to use this precious time to review anything that I do not want to be reinforced in the hours of being immersed in my subconscious mind. I choose to impress upon my subconscious mind my conception of myself as a divine creator in alignment with the one mind. I reiterate my I ams, which I have placed in my imagination, and I remember that my slumber will be dominated by my last waking concept of myself. I am peaceful, I am content, I am love, and I attract only to myself those who are in alignment with my highest ideals of myself. This is my nightly ritual, always eschewing any temptation to go over any fear of unpleasantness that my ego might be asking me to review. I assume the feeling in my body of those I am statements already fulfilled, and I know that I'm allowing myself to be programmed while asleep. For the next day I rise knowing that I am a free agent. In sleep, man impresses the subconscious mind with his conception of himself. Step 4, switch the focus from blaming others to understanding yourself. Whenever you're upset over the conduct of others, take the focus off those you're holding responsible for your inner distress. Shift your mental energy to allowing yourself to be with whatever you're feeling. Let the experience be as it may, without blaming others for your feelings. Don't blame yourself either. Just allow the experience to unfold and tell yourself that no one has the power to make you uneasy without your consent, and that you're unwilling to grant that authority to this person right now. Tell yourself that you are willing to freely experience your emotions without calling them wrong or needing to chase them away. In this way, you've made a shift to self-mastery. It's important to bypass blame, and even to bypass your desire to understand the other person. Instead, focus on understanding yourself. By taking responsibility for how you choose to respond to anything or anyone, you're aligning yourself with the beautiful dance of life. By changing the way you choose to perceive the power that others have over you, and you will see a bright new world of unlimited potential for yourself, and you will know instantly how to forgive and let go of anything. Step 5, avoid telling people what to do. Avoid thoughts and activities that involve telling people who are perfectly capable of making their own choices what to do. In your family, remember that you do not own anyone. The poet Khalil Gibran reminds you your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you but not from you. This is always true. In fact, disregard any inclination to dominate in all of your relationships. Listen rather than expound. Pay attention to yourself when you're having judgment opinions, and see where self-attention takes you. When you replace an ownership mentality with one of allowing, you'll begin to see the true unfolding of the Tao in yourself and other people. From that moment on, you'll be free of frustration with those who don't behave according to your ego-dominated expectations. Step 6, learn to let go and be like water, rather than attempting to dominate with your forcefulness. Be like water. Flow everywhere there's an opening. Soften your hard edges by being more tolerant of contrary opinions. Interfere less and substitute listening for directing and telling. When someone offers you their viewpoint, try responding with, "I've never considered that before. Thank you. I'll give it some thought." When you give up interfering and opt instead to stream like water, gently, softly, and unobtrusively, you become forgiveness itself. Picture yourself as having the same qualities as water. Allow your soft, weak-yielding fluid self to enter places where you previously were excluded because of your inclination to be solid and hard. Flow softly into the lives of those with whom you feel conflicted. Picture yourself entering their private inner selves, seeing perhaps for the first time what they're experiencing. Keep this image of yourself as gently coursing water and watch how your relationships change. Step 7. Take responsibility for your part. Removing blame means never assigning responsibility to anyone else for what you're experiencing. It means that you're willing to say, "I may not understand why I feel this way, why I have this illness, why I've been victimized, or why I had this accident. But I'm willing to say without any guilt or resentment that I own it. I live with, and I am responsible for having it in my life." If you take responsibility for having the experience, then at least you have a chance to also take responsibility for removing it or learning from it. If you're in some small, perhaps unknown way responsible for that migraine headache or that depressed feeling, then you can go to work to remove it or discover what its message is for you. If, on the other hand, someone or something else is responsible in your mind, then, of course, you'll have to wait until they change for you to get better. And that is unlikely to occur. So you go home with nothing and are left with nothing when peace is really on the other side of the coin. Step 8, let go of resentments. What causes annoyance and anger after a dispute? The generic response would be a laundry list detailing why the other person was wrong and how illogically and unreasonably they behaved, concluding with something like, "I have a right to be upset when my heir daughter, mother-in-law, ex-husband, boss, or whomever you're thinking of speaks to me that way." But if you're interested in living a Tao-filled life, it's imperative that you reverse this kind of thinking. Resentments don't come from the conduct of the other party in an altercation. No, they survive and thrive because you're unwilling to end that altercation with an offering of kindness, love, and authentic forgiveness. As Lao Tzu says, someone must risk returning injury with kindness, or hostility will never turn to goodwill. So when all of the yelling, screaming, and threatening words have been expressed, the time for calm has arrived. Remember that no storm lasts forever, and that hidden within are always seeds of tranquility. There is a time for hostility and a time for peace. Step 9, be kind instead of right. There is a Chinese proverb, "If you're going to pursue revenge, you'd better dig 2 graves, which is saying to may your resentments will destroy you. The world is just the way it is. The people who are behaving badly in the world are doing what they're supposed to be doing. You can process it in any way that you choose. If you're filled with anger about all of those problems, you are one more person who contributes to the pollution of anger. Instead, remember that you have no need to make others wrong or to retaliate when you've been wronged. Imagine if someone says something to you that you find offensive, and rather than opting for resentment, you learn to depersonalize what you've just heard and respond with kindness. You are willing to freely send the higher, faster energies of love, peace, joy, forgiveness, and kindness as your response to whatever comes your way. You do this for yourself. You would rather be kind than right. Step 10. Practice giving in the midst of arguments or disagreements. Practice giving rather than taking before you exit. Giving involves leaving the ego behind. While it wants to win and show its superiority by being contrary and disrespectful, your Tao nature wants to be at peace and live in harmony. You can reduce your quarreling time to almost 0 if you practice this procedure wherever you are, whenever you feel strong emotions stirring in you and you notice yourself feeling the need to be right. Silently recite the following words from the prayer of St. Francis. "Where there is injury, let me bring pardon. Be a giver of forgiveness as he teaches, bring love to hate, light to darkness, and pardon to injury." Read these words daily, for they help you overcome your ego's demands and know the fullness of life. Step 11. Stop looking for occasions to be offended. When you live at or below ordinary levels of awareness, you spend a great deal of time and energy finding opportunities to be offended. A news report, a rude stranger, someone cursing, a sneeze, a black cloud, just about anything will do if you're looking for an occasion to be offended. Become a person who refuses to be offended by anyone, anything, or any set of circumstances. If you have enough faith in your own beliefs, you'll find that it's impossible to be offended by the beliefs and conduct of others. Not being offended is a way of saying, I have control over how I'm going to feel, and I choose to feel peaceful regardless of what I observe going on. When you feel offended, you're practicing judgment. You judge someone else to be stupid, insensitive, rude, arrogant, inconsiderate, or foolish, and then you find yourself upset and offended by their conduct. What you may not realize is that when you judge another person, you do not define them. You define yourself as someone who needs to judge others. Step L, judge others. Don't live in the past, be present. When we find it difficult to forgive, often it is because we are not living in the present, and instead we assign more importance to the past. We assign a good portion of our energy and attention lamenting the good old days that are gone forever as the reason why we can't be happy and fulfilled today. Everything has changed. No one respects anyone else like they used to. This is assigning responsibility to the past for why you can't be happy today. It's doubtful that other creatures waste the present moment in thoughts of past and future. A beaver only does beaver, and he does it right in the moment. He doesn't spend his days ruminating over the fact that his beaver siblings received more attention, or his father beaver ran off with a younger beaver when he was growing up. He's always in the now. We can learn much from God's creatures about enjoying the present moment rather than using it up consumed with anger over the past or worry about the future. Practice living in the moment by appreciating the beauty around you now. Step 1, trying to embrace your dark times in a universe that's an intelligent system with a divine creative force supporting it. There simply can be no accidents. As tough as it is to acknowledge you had to go through what you went through in order to get to where you are today, and the evidence is that you did. Every spiritual advance that you will make in your life will very likely be preceded by some kind of fall or seeming disaster. Those dark times, accidents, tough episodes, breakups, periods of impoverishment, illnesses, abuses, and broken dreams were all in order. They happened, so you can assume they had to, and you can't unhappen them. Embrace them from that perspective, and then understand them, accept them, honor them, and finally transform them. Step 14, refrain from judgment. When you stop judging and simply become an observer, you will know inner peace. With that sense of inner peace, you'll find yourself happier and free of the negative energy of resentment. A bonus is that you'll find that others are much more attracted to you. A peaceful person attracts peaceful energy. If I'm to be a being of love living from my highest self, that means that love is all I have inside of me and all that I have to give away. If someone I love chooses to be something other than what my ego would prefer, I must send them the ingredients of my highest self, which is God, and God is love. My criticism and condemnation of the thoughts, feelings, and behavior of others, regardless of how right and moral my human self convinces me it is a step away from God realization. And it is God consciousness that allows for my wishes to be fulfilled, as long as they are aligned with my source of being. I can come up with a long list of reasons why I should be judgmental and condemnatory toward another of God's children, and why, damn it, I am right. Yet if I want to perfect my own world, and I so want to do so, then I must substitute love for these judgments. Step 53, send love. I spent years studying the teachings of Patanjali, and he reminded us several thousand years ago that when we are steadfast, which means that we never slip in our abstention of thoughts of harm directed toward others, then all living creatures cease to feel enmity in our presence. Now I know that we are all human, you, me, all of us. We do occasionally slip and retreat from our highest self into judgment, criticism, and condemnation, but this is not a rationale for choosing to practice that kind of interaction. I can only tell you that when I finally got it, and I sent only love to another of God's children whom I had been judging and criticizing, I got the immediate result of inner contentment. I urge you to send love in place of those judgments and criticisms to others when you feel they impede your joy and happiness, and hold them in that place of love. Notice that if you stay steadfast, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. A meditation to end on love. Picture yourself at the termination of a quarrel or major dispute. Rather than reacting with old patterns of residual anger, revenge, and hurt, visualize offering kindness, love, and forgiveness. Do this right now by sending out these true virtue thoughts to any resentments you're currently carrying. Make this your standard response to any future altercations. I end on love, no matter what. Everyone is born a genius, but the process of living de-geniuses them. Genius is a potential that lives within you and every other human being. You have many moments of genius in your lifetime. These are the times when you have a uniquely brilliant idea and implement it, even if only you are aware of how fantastic it is. Perhaps you created something absolutely astonishing and you even amazed yourself. Then there are the moments when you make exactly the right shot in a round of golf or a tennis match and you realize with immense pleasure what you've just accomplished. You are a genius. There is no such thing as luck or accidents in this purposeful universe. Not only is everything connected to everything else, but no one is excluded from the universal source called intention. And genius, since it's a characteristic of the universal source, must be universal, which means that it's in no way restricted. It's available to every single human being. It certainly can and does show up differently in every single one of us. There are 9 habits of creative genius you can cultivate in your daily life that will help you to develop a deeper awareness of your connection to this ever-present source of all that is. The qualities of creativity and genius are within you, awaiting your decision to match up with the power of intention. Habit 1: declare yourself to be a genius. This shouldn't be a public pronouncement, but a statement of intention between you and your creator. Remind yourself that you're one of the masterpieces that emanated from the universal field of intention. You don't have to prove that you're a genius, nor do you need to compare any of your accomplishments to those of others. You have a unique gift to offer this world, and you are unique in the entire history of creation. Habit 2: pay attention to your thoughts. Make a decision to listen more carefully to your inner insights, no matter how small or insignificant you may have previously judged them to be. These thoughts, which you may have viewed as silly or unworthy of attention, are your private connection to the field of intention. Thoughts that seem to persist, particularly if they relate to new activities and adventures, aren't in your mind accidentally. Those tenacious thoughts that don't go away should be viewed by you as intention talking to you, saying, you signed up to express your unique brilliance, so why do you keep ignoring the genius in favor of settling for less? Habit 3: step boldly in the direction of your inner intuitive inclinations. Take constructive action toward implementing your inner intuitive inclinations. Any step in the direction of expressing your creative impulses is a step in the direction of actualizing the genius that resides within you. For example, writing a book. Regardless of how you may have doubted yourself up until now, recording a CD of yourself reading poetry or singing the songs you've written, purchasing an easel and art supplies, and spending an afternoon painting, or visiting an expert in the field that interests you. Habit 4: believe in the validity of your thoughts. Know that any and all thoughts that you have regarding your own skills, interests, and inclinations are valid. To reinforce the validity of your thoughts, keep them private. Tell yourself that they're between you and God. If you keep them in the spiritual domain, you don't have to introduce them to your ego or expose them to the egos of those around you. This means that you'll never have to compromise them by explaining and defending them to others. Habit 5: cultivate gratitude. Be an appreciator of life. Remind yourself that aligning with spiritual energy is how you will find and convey the genius within you. Shift your energy to harmonize vibrationally with the energy of Source. Be an appreciator of life and refuse to have thoughts of hatred, anxiety, anger, and judgment. Trust yourself as a piece of God and your genius will flourish. Any step in the direction of expressing your creative impulses is a step in the direction of actualizing the genius that resides within you. Habit 6: achieve a state of childlike wonderment. Practice radical humility. Take no credit for your talents, intellectual abilities, aptitudes, or proficiencies. Be in a state of awe and bewilderment. Even as I sit here with my pen in my hand, observing how words appear before me, I'm in a state of bewilderment. Where do these words come from? How does my hand know how to translate my invisible thoughts into decipherable words, sentences, and paragraphs? I'm humble in my inability to know where any of my accomplishments come from. Practice radical humility and give credit everywhere except to your ego. Habit 7: remove doubt and resistance. Remove resistance to actualizing your genius. Resistance always shows up in the form of your thoughts. Watch for thoughts that convey your inability to think of yourself in genius terms. Thoughts of doubt about your abilities, or thoughts that reinforce what you've been taught about a lack of talent or lack of aptitude. Your source knows that you're a genius. Any thought you have that challenges this notion is resistance, which will inhibit you from realizing your intention. Habit 8, look for the genius in others. Pay attention to the greatness you observe in as many people as possible. And if you don't see it at first, then spend some mental energy looking for it. The more you're inclined to think in genius terms, the more natural it becomes for you to apply the same standards to yourself. Tell others about their genius. Be as complimentary and authentic as you can. In doing so, you'll radiate loving, kind, abundant, creative energy. In a universe that operates on energy and attraction, you'll find these same qualities returning to you. Habit 9, simplify your life, take the complications, rules, shoulds, musts, have tos, and so on out of your life. By uncomplicating your life and removing the trivial pursuits that occupy so much of it, you open a channel for the genius within you to emerge. One of the most effective techniques for simplifying life is to take time each day to spend 20 or so minutes in silence and meditation. The more conscious contact you make with your source, the more you come to appreciate your own highest self. And it's from this highest self that your own genius will be manifested. How to maintain your connection to creative genius as you begin to recognize evidence of inspiration and source all around you. Remain humble while staying in a state of gratitude. This genius that you are has nothing at all to do with your ego, mind. Be ever so grateful to the source of intention for providing you with the life force to express the genius that resides within you. Those who attribute their inspiration and success to their ego soon lose this capacity, or they allow the approval and attention of others to destroy them. Remain humble and grateful. Gratitude is a sacred space where you allow and know that a force greater than your ego is always at work and always available. There is a level of awareness available to you that you are probably unfamiliar with. It extends upwards and transcends the ordinary level of consciousness that you're most accustomed to. At this higher plane of existence, which you can access at will, the fulfillment of wishes is not only probable, it's guaranteed. At this level, your wishes, all of them, can indeed be fulfilled. By using your imagination and practicing the art of assuming the feeling of your wishes being fulfilled, and steadfastly refusing to allow any evidence of the outer world to distract you from your intentions, you will discover that you, by virtue of your spiritual awareness, possess the ability to become the person you were destined to be. What follows is simply a preparation for entering into that realm wherein you have much more say over what comes into your life than you might have envisioned. Read and apply these 13 habits into your own life, and you will soon be well on your way to creating your own destiny. Habit 1. Believe you are an infinite spiritual being having a temporary human experience. The first step to learning to manifest your reality is you must create a new concept of yourself as an infinite spiritual being having a temporary human experience. The I that I use to describe myself is not so as that he insists in staying in one body. In fact, that I that is me finally recognizes that ancient spiritual truth spoken by divine masters since antiquity. None of us are really doing anything. Rather, our bodies are merely being done. Now, this I that you use to describe yourself isn't the physical form that you occupy and take with you everywhere. The I is your higher self, changeless and real. Habit 2, become the observer of your thoughts. You become what you think about. If you think about giving as God does, the universe will provide. If you think about things being taken away, then that's what you'll attract. If you want to manifest your dreams, you must become a master at monitoring the thoughts and feelings you are aligning yourself with. Your thoughts and feelings become your reality, so become adept at observing the thoughts and feelings you are creating for yourself. Habit 3. Release your imagination from current limiting circumstances. Do not let your imagination be restricted to the current conditions of your life, or what I call being obsessed with what is. Keep reminding yourself that everything that you've believed has gotten you to precisely the point where you are now. This is a rather persistent theme in my work, so it bears repeating here. If you want to elevate your life and become a manifester, then you have to change what you've believed to be true about yourself that has landed you where you are. The sentiments of this is reality. This is just the way things are. There is nothing that I can do to change what is, and the like are pernicious thoughts that will taint and defile your great gift of I am that I am, which is your divine inheritance from your Creator. Habit 4, see your wish, see as already accomplished. In my mind, I see my wishes as already having been accomplished. I experience what that feels like, savoring the feeling in my body. I stay in a profound state of gratitude for my wish having been already realized, as if it already were brought into being. My prayer is without effort, rather it is felt as an already accomplished fact. Habit 5, believe in your own divine power. The words of all the great spiritual teachers encourage us to see ourselves as unlimited and to know that even the least among us has the divine power of God available at every moment of our lives. I know that you, if you practice studiously, can begin to manifest for yourself virtually anything that you are capable of conceiving in your mind. You must unplug from your conditioning and know in that private space behind your eyes that you can and will take on the challenge of manifesting your destiny. It is my belief that you are never given the power to dream without the equivalent power to manifest that dream and make it your physical reality. Habit 6. Remain independent of the good opinion of other people, remain independent of the good opinion of others, and keep yourself fixed on your ability to attract whatever it is that you previously thought was missing in your life. When you trust yourself to decide what is to be your destiny, you don't allow externals to discourage or influence you. What you place your attention on is your burning desire and intense yearning combined with an intention to make that your reality. You never allow outside circumstances to deflect you from your desires. This inner picture in your imagination is undisturbed by opinions or provocations that originate outside of yourself. Habit 7. Reconstruct your I ams. The thoughts that you dwell on determine what you will possess or not possess. What you think about is what you will become. Examine all the supposed lacks and scarcities in your life. Then say to yourself, I created all of this with my thoughts, conditioning, beliefs, and actions. Run through as large an inventory as you can of the things that you would like to define your life. Then make the shift in your imagination from I am not or I am hoping to become to I am. In the book of Joel, the Lord's advice is in harmony with this practice. Let the weak say, I am strong. It's Joel 3:1. It is truly as simple as these 7 words form the Bible advise. You want what follows I am to be congruent with your highest self, which is God. Beginning with your inner dialogue, simply change the words that define your concept of yourself. Habit 8, be patient and banish doubt. If exercising your imagination feels difficult to do, perhaps due to a life where the imagination has played servant to your logical faculties, be infinitely patient with your attempts at imagining your wish fulfilled. Cultivate infinite patience with yourself, never being dissatisfied with the speed or the manner in which your intentions are manifesting. When you banish all doubt in favor of faith, there's nothing more powerful on this planet. If you truly understand the ability to manifest, you realize you can control the speed at which change occurs in your life. Henry David Thoreau said, You will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. Thoreau suggests that the universe will begin to conspire with you to fulfill your wishes. This is the law of co-creation. When you trust in yourself, you are not looking for solutions to your life problems in someone or something outside yourself. Instead, you remain in a state of trusting. Then in a trustworthy manner, you can proceed to attract the energy to you that provides the solution. Habit 9. Align yourself with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you put aside your doubts, you can begin to imagine in both mind and body what it will feel like to have your wishes fulfilled. Think about what you plan to manifest. Then use your imagination to feel what that feels like in your body. Does it feel natural to you? Does it really feel like this is the you that you are deciding to be? By staying only with what your senses tell you is your reality, you place a barrier to letting your imagination create all that you wish for. Your imagination is unlimited. Albert Einstein made this astute observation. Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. Your logic, the facts that you've accepted as true, have gotten you to point B. Now you're going to reprogram your imagination to take you everywhere. Everywhere that you are brave enough to envision for yourself. Habit 10. Take stock of how natural your dream feels to you. The time it takes your desire to become reality is directly proportional to the naturalness of being it. The more natural an experience your wish feels for you, the faster you will create it in your life. Conversely, the more unnatural a state of being feels to you, the longer it will take to achieve. The key word to contemplate is feels. If being healthy, prosperous, happy, successful, strong, intelligent, and so on currently feel unnatural to you, naturalness may yet be achieved by persistently using your imagination and your subjective attention to make this feeling stick. If it is your burning desire to become a professional basketball player, ask yourself how natural it feels to you to be on the court, competing at the professional level. If this feels unnatural to you, you may eventually, with persistence, achieve this wish fulfilled, but only until you have become so aligned with that experience that it feels completely natural to dunk a basketball and sink a free throw. Habit 11, phrase your intentions as given statements. When you place an intention in your imagination, do not allow a question mark at the end of your pronouncement. See your statement ending in a grammatical exclamation point. I bring this into my reality. It's easy to say if you're already living from that declaration in your imagination and have assumed the feeling in your body of that wish being fulfilled. Remain confident that through continued reliance on your imagination, your assumptions are materializing into reality. Habit 12, choose your reality with love. When you attempt to manifest from a place of selfishness or potential harm to anyone else, you invoke the ego. The ego is always about winning, overpowering, being better than others, accumulating for the sake of feeling superior, achieving adulation or recognition, improving your status, and so on. So the secret is to feel yourself as already being and having what you desire, and to keep the entirety of it all wrapped up in a spirit of love. Always weigh your choices on the scales of love. Habit 33, know that what you already have is enough when you stop needing more of everything. More of what you desire seems to arrive in your life. Try this now. Feel gratitude for everything you have in this moment. Know that this is enough. Becoming more of who you are, our creative power is the ability to convert the energy of our thoughts into a newly materialized form. Manifestation is the result. Beginning with one intention at a time, you can learn how to manifest anything in your life. Think of yourself as a consciousness being played out by God, just as a wave is part of the ocean that is being played out by the ocean. This theory of nature will promote the kind of trust that you need to attract to yourself all that belongs to you in the universe. You cannot receive it or even come close to manifesting it if you have an absence of trust in yourself as an extension of God. Manifesting then becomes the business of doing nothing more than bringing into form a new aspect of yourself. You are not creating something from nothing. You are learning to align yourself with an aspect of your being that your senses have not known they could activate. When you know your highest self, you are on your way to becoming a co-creator of your entire world, learning to manage the circumstances of your life and participating with assurance in the act of creation. You literally become a manifester. This may appear to contradict the ask and you shall receive version of prayer that you were likely exposed to. It may feel new, but it is so important that you acknowledge your own divine role in the fulfillment of your spirituality-aligned desires for yourself and others. I send you the green light. The greatest achievement was at first and for a time a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn, the bird sleeps in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of realities. For one of the huge imbalances in life is the disparity between your daily existence with its routines and habits, and the dream you have deep within yourself of some extraordinarily satisfying way of living. In the quote that opens this Uzzier article, James Allen poetically explains that the dream is the magical realm out of which newly created life emerges. Buried within you is an unlimited capacity for creation, what Allen calls a waking angel that's anxious to plant seedlings to fulfill your dreams and your destiny. True imagination is not fanciful daydreaming. It is fire from heaven. I simply couldn't resist adding the Ernest Holmes quote describing this dynamic imagination as fire from heaven. They're both appropriate invitations and reminders that you need to tend to that burning fire, the dream within you, if living a balanced life is important. How this imbalance shows up in your life, this absence of balance between dreams and habits may be very subtle. It doesn't necessarily reveal itself in the obvious symptoms of heartburn, depression, illness, or anxiety. It's more often something that feels like an unwelcome companion by your side, which continually whispers to you that you're ignoring something. There's some often unidentifiable task or experience that you sense as part of your beingness. It may seem intangible, but you can feel the longing to be what you're intended to be. You sense that there's a higher agenda. Your way of life and your reason for life are out of balance. Until you pay attention, this subtle visitor will continue to prod you to regain your equilibrium. Think of a balanced scale with one side weighted down and the other side up, like a teeter-totter with an obese child on one end and a skinny kid on the other. In this case, the heavy end that tips the scale out of balance is the overweight kid, representing your everyday behaviors, the work you do, the place where you reside, the people with whom you interact, your geographic location, the books you read, the movies you see, and the conversations that fill up your life. It's not that any of these things are bad in and of themselves. The imbalance exists because they're unhealthy for your particular life. They simply don't mesh with what you've imagined yourself to be. When it's unhealthy, it's wrong, and on some level you feel that. When you live your life going through the motions, it may seem to be convenient, but the weight of your dissatisfaction creates a huge imbalance in the only life you have now. You're perplexed by the ever-present, gnawing feeling of dissatisfaction that you can't seem to shake, the stomach sensation of emptiness. It shows up when you're sound asleep and your dreams are filled with reminders of what you'd love to be, but you wake and return to pursuing your safe routine. Your dreams are also demanding your attention in waking life, when you're petulant and argumentative with others. Because in actuality, you're so frustrated with yourself that you try to relieve the pressure by venting anger outward. Imbalance masquerades as a sense of frustration with your current lifestyle. If you allow yourself to think about this fire from heaven, you proceed to rationalize your status quo with explanations and mental meanderings that you know in your heart are excuses because you don't think you have the tools to get in balance. You may get to a point where you become increasingly hard on yourself and begin seeking medication and other treatment for feelings of inadequacy and for what's called depression. You'll surely witness yourself feeling more and more angry and moody, with more frequent occurrences of minor afflictions such as colds, headaches, and insomnia. As time goes on in this state of imbalance, there's less enthusiasm for what has become the drudgery of life. Work is now even more routine, with even less purpose and drive. These blahs begin appearing in your behavior toward your family and those you love. You're easily agitated, picking on others for no apparent reason. If you're able to be honest with yourself, you recognize that your irritability stems from being out of balance with the bigger dream you've always had, but which is now apparently slipping away. When these subtle symptoms surface, it's crucial to explore the kind of energy you're giving to the scale to create balance. Or in this case, imbalance. The heavy angst is weighing down your reason for being, but you are the only one who can rebalance this scale of your life. Here are some tools to help you return to a balanced life, beginning with recognizing the ways in which you may be sabotaging yourself. How to create balance between dreams and habits. Your desire to be and live from greatness is an aspect of your spiritual energy. In order to create balance in this area of your life, you have to use the energy of your thoughts to harmonize with what you desire. Your mental energy attracts what you think about. Thoughts that pay homage to frustration will attract frustration. When you say or think anything resembling, "There's nothing I can do, my life has spun out of control, and I'm trapped," that's what you'll attract. That is, resistance to your highest desires. Every thought of frustration is like purchasing a ticket for more frustration. Every thought that agrees that you're stuck is asking the universe to send you even more of that glue to keep you stuck. The single most important tool to being in balance is knowing that you and you alone are responsible for the imbalance between what you dream your life is meant to be and the daily habits that drain life from that dream. You can create a new alignment with your mental energy and instruct the universe to send opportunities to correct this imbalance. When you do so, you discover that while the world of reality has its limits, the world of your imagination is without boundaries. Out of this boundless imagination comes the seedling of a reality that's been crying out to be restored to a balanced environment. Restoring the balance between dreams and habits, the objective of this principle is to create a balance between dreams and habits. The least complicated way to begin is to recognize the signs of habitual ways of being, and then learn to shift your thinking to being in balance with your dreams. So what are your dreams? What is it that lives within you that's never gone away? What inner night light continues to glow, even if it's only a glimmer? in your thoughts and dreams. Whatever it is, however absurd it may seem to others, if you want to restore the balance between your dreams and your habits, you need to make a shift in the energy that you're contributing to your dreams. If you're out of balance, it's primarily because you've energetically allowed your habits to define your life. Those habits and the consequences thereof are the result of the energy you've given them. In the early stages of the rebalancing process, concentrate on this awareness. You get what you think about, whether you want it or not. Commit to thinking about what you want, rather than how impossible or difficult that dream may seem. Give your personal dreams a place to hang out on the balance scale so that you can see them in your imagination and they can soak up the energy they deserve. Thoughts are mental currency. Spend it wisely. Thoughts are mental energy. They're the currency that you have to attract what you desire. You must learn to stop spending that currency on thoughts you don't want, even though you may feel compelled to continue your habitual behavior. You get what you think about, whether you want it or not. Commit to thinking about what you want, rather than how impossible or difficult that dream may seem. Your body might continue for a while to stay where it's been trained to be, but meanwhile, thoughts are being aligned with your dreams. The esteemed 19th century writer Louisa May Alcott phrases this idea in an encouraging and inspiring manner. Far away in the sunshine are my highest inspirations. I may not reach them, but I can look up and see the beauty. Believe in them and try to follow where they lead it. Choosing to restore a semblance of balance between your dreams and your habits seems possible with Ms. Alcott's phrases in mind, look up and see, and believe in them. The words bring to life an energetic alignment. Rather than putting your thoughts on what is, or what you've habitually thought for a lifetime, you shift to looking up and seeing and firmly believing in what you see. When you begin to think in this manner, the universe conspires to work with you and sends you precisely what you're thinking and believing. It doesn't always happen instantaneously, but once the realignment is initiated in your thoughts, you've begun being in balance. My dear wonderful friends, tonight I shall share with you the most powerful secret in all of creation: how to speak to yourself in a way that will completely transform your world in just 3 days, not in 3 months, not in 3 years, but in 3 days. For you see, the power of your inner conversation is absolute, and it is the only true creative power in the universe. Now, when I tell you to talk to yourself, I am not speaking of the idle chatter that most engage in throughout their day. I speak of that inner conversation that is deliberate, conscious, and aligned with your desired state. For your inner conversation is your consciousness externalized, and your consciousness is God. Consider the words of Scripture, in the beginning was the Word. These words are not speaking of some external deity's utterance. They speak of your inner word, your inner conversation, for you are the operant power, and your inner conversation is the word that creates all things. Many of you come to me asking, Wayne, how long must I wait to see my desires manifest? And I tell you now, give yourself 3 days of proper inner conversation, and you will see your world begin to transform. For 3 is the number of completion in Scripture. And when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you set in motion forces beyond your current understanding. Let me share with you exactly how to conduct this inner conversation. First, you must understand that your inner conversation must be from the end. You do not speak of what you want to be true. You speak as though what you desire is already true. This is the great secret that most of the world has missed. When you wake in the morning of your first day, your inner conversation must be from the state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must be that of a wealthy person. If you desire health, your inner conversation must be that of a healthy person. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be that of someone who is deeply loved. But then this is crucial. Your inner conversation must feel natural. It must not be strained or forced. For feeling is the secret, and your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. Let me give you a perfect example from Scripture. When David spoke to Goliath, his inner conversation was not, I hope I can win, or I will try my best. His inner conversation was from the state of victory already achieved. This is why he could say with complete conviction, this day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand. Now, for these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation as though your life depends upon it, because it does. Every time you catch yourself engaging in inner conversation that contradicts your desired state, you must immediately revise it. This is not a suggestion. This is a command, if you wish, just to see your world transform. Consider this: every outer conversation you have is first an inner conversation. Every relationship you have is first an inner conversation. Every circumstance in your life is first an inner conversation. Therefore, by changing your inner conversation for just 3 days, you literally change the entire substance from which your world is created. Let me tell you how to structure your inner conversation throughout these 3 days. In the morning, your first inner words must be from the state of your wish fulfilled before you open your eyes, before you move a muscle. Engage in the inner conversation of the person you wish to be. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation might be, "I am so grateful for my abundant life. Money flows to me easily and continuously. I am surrounded by prosperity." But remember, these words must not be mere affirmations. They must be spoken with the feeling of knowing that they are already true throughout your day. Your inner conversation must maintain the same level of conviction when challenges arise, and they will arise. Your inner conversation must remain steadfast. If someone speaks of lack, your inner conversation must be of abundance. If someone speaks of illness, your inner conversation must be of help. This is where most fail in their attempt to change their world. They allow their inner conversation to be pulled into the current circumstances, rather than maintaining the conversation of their desired state. But I tell you now, circumstances have no power over your inner conversation, unless you give them that power. For these 3 days, you must be relentless in maintaining your new inner conversation. When you walk down the street, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you eat your meals, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. Your inner conversation is the only reality. Everything else, absolutely everything, is a shadow of your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, when you maintain the proper and inner conversation for 3 days, you literally create a new world. Many of you may be thinking, but never 3 days seems too short a time to change my entire world. Let me remind you of the story of Jonah. How long was he in the belly of the whale? 3 days. And after 3 days he was transformed, and his world was transformed. This is not coincidence, my dear friends, this is law. 3 days of proper inner conversation is all that is required to set in motion the forces that will transform your world. But these must be 3 complete days, not 3 days of wavering between states. During these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation, not just in your waking hours, but as you fall asleep. For the last inner conversation you have before sleep is particularly powerful. It continues to echo through your subconscious mind throughout your sleep. Therefore, as you prepare for sleep during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be perfectly aligned with your desired state. If you desire a successful business, your inner conversation might be, "I am so grateful for my thriving business. My customers are delighted with our services. Profits increase continuously." But remember, and this is crucial, your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. It must feel as natural to have this conversation as it feels to speak of what you had for breakfast. This is where the power lies, not in the words themselves, but in the feeling of naturalness that accompanies them. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your outer conversations. Therefore, during these 3 days, you must be particularly vigilant about your outer conversations as well. They must align with your new inner conversation. If someone asks you how you are, your response must come from your desired state. If someone speaks to you about problems or difficulties, your response must come from your desired state. Your outer conversation must be a perfect reflection of your new inner conversation. Many of you may find this challenging at first. You may be tempted to engage in conversations about current circumstances rather than your desired state. But I tell you now, this is where your power lies in maintaining your new conversation regardless of appearances. Consider the story of Jesus walking on water. What was his inner conversation? Was it about the impossibility of walking on water? Was it about the danger of the storms? No. His inner conversation was from the state of mastery over all natural laws, and his outer world had to conform to this inner conversation during these 3 days. You must maintain the same level of conviction in your inner conversation. You must speak to yourself as though your desired state is already your reality. not as though it will be, not as though it might be, but as though it is. Let me share with you how to handle doubts when they arise during these 3 days. And they will arise when a doubt appears in your mind. Do not fight it. Instead, immediately, revise your inner conversation. If you catch yourself saying, inwardly, this isn't working immediately, revise it to everything is working perfectly. My world is transforming now. This revision must be immediate and complete. You cannot allow doubt to linger in your inner conversation. For remember, your inner conversation is the only reality. Therefore, a doubting inner conversation will create a doubting outer reality. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be dominated by gratitude, not gratitude for what you hope will come, but gratitude for what is already yours in your desired state. This gratitude must be part of your inner conversation throughout the day. When you wake in the morning, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you go about your daily activities, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. Let me share with you another principle. So your inner conversation creates your inner states, and your inner states create your outer world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of wealth. Consciousness, if you desire health, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of health. Consciousness, if you desire love, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of being loved. Many of you may be wondering what to do if you slip in your inner conversation during these 3 days. Let me be very clear. You must not condemn yourself. Instead, immediately revise the conversation. Remember, you are training yourself to maintain a new inner conversation, and like any training, it requires practice. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary focus. Every other activity must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation. For you are literally recreating your world through this conversation. Let me share with you how to structure your inner conversation for specific desires. If you desire a new home, your inner conversation might be, I love living in my beautiful new home. Everything about it is perfect for me. If you desire promotion, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my new position. It's everything I desired and more. But remember, these are not mere words. They must be accompanied by the feeling of living in that new home, the feeling of working in that new position. Fulfilling is the secret. And your inner conversation must generate the feeling of your wish fulfilled throughout these 3 days. Your inner conversation must be specific. Vague. Inner conversation creates vague results. Therefore, speak to yourself with clarity about your desired state. Be specific in your inner conversation about what you are grateful for, what you are experiencing, what you are enjoying in your desired state. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your self-concept, and your self-concept creates your world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about who you are, not just what you have. If you desire success, your inner conversation must be about being a successful person, not just about having success. If you desire abundance, your inner conversation must be about being an abundant person, not just about having money. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be about being a loved person, not just about having a relationship. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be continuous, not in the sense of constant checker, but in the sense of consistent alignment with your desired state. Every time you become aware of your inner conversation, it must be from your desired state. Let me share with you how to maintain this continuity. Set reminders for yourself throughout the day. Every time you look at your watch, every time you eat a meal, every time you enter a room. Let these be triggers to check your inner conversation. But remember, your inner conversation must not be mechanical. It must be alive with feeling, rich with the emotion of your desired state. For it is the feeling that gives power to your inner conversation throughout these 3 days. Your inner conversation must be sovereign. You must not allow anyone or anything to dictate your inner conversation, not circumstances, not other people's opinions, not past experiences. Nothing must have power over your inner conversation except you. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your expectations, and your expectations create your experience. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create the highest expectations of good for yourself. Many of you may be thinking, but never what if my desired state seems impossible. Let me remind you, nothing is impossible to your inner conversation. Your inner conversation is God in action, and to God all things are possible. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about possibility, not probability. You must speak to yourself from the state of your wish fulfilled, regardless of how probable or improbable may seem to your rational mind. Let me share with you how to handle apparent failures during these 3 days. If something happens that seems to contradict your desired state, your inner conversation must remain unchanged. And you must speak to yourself as though the seeming failure is actually part of the perfect unfolding of your desire. Remember, your inner conversation is creating your reality, not the other way around. Therefore, no external circumstance has the power to change your inner conversation unless you give it that power throughout these 3 days. Your inner conversation must be your constant companion. It must be the lens through which you view every experience, the filter through which you interpret every event, the standard by which you measure every circumstance. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your belief system, and your belief system creates your reality. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must consistently reinforce the beliefs that support your desired state. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be a perfect reflection of the person you wish to be. You must speak to yourself as that person would speak, think, as that person would think, feel, as that person would feel. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of consciousness when you catch yourself speaking from your old state. Immediately ask yourself, how would I be speaking to myself if I were already the person I wish to be? Then revise your inner conversation accordingly. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about what is, not what was or what might be. You must speak to yourself in the present tense from the state of your wish fulfilled. This is crucial for the manifestation of your desire. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your future, but it does so by creating your present. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must make your desired future your present reality. Many of you may be wondering what will happen after these 3 days. Let me tell you, if you have maintained the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you will have set in motion forces that must result in the manifestation of your desire during these 3 days. Your inner conversation must be your primary tool for creation. Every other method, every other technique, every other approach must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation. Let me share with you how to know if your inner conversation is correct, if it feels natural, if it feels real, if it feels true. Even in the face of contrary evidence, then your inner conversation is correct. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be protected like a precious jewel. You must guard it against doubt, against fear, against negativity, for your inner conversation is the very substance from which your world is created. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with yourself creates all other relationships. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must reflect the highest, most loving relationship during these 3 days. Your inner conversation must be your sacred practice. You must treat it with the same reverence that a priest treats his prayers, that a scientist treats his experiments, that an artist treats his creations. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of devotion. See your inner conversation as your direct connection to the creative power of the universe. For that is exactly what it is, your consciousness in action, creating your world throughout these 3 days. Your inner conversation must be your constant reminder of who you really are, the operant power in your world, the creator of reality, the God of your young illness. And that, my dear friends, is how you must talk to yourself for 3 days if you wish to transform your world. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but consistently, continuously, constantly. For your inner conversation is the word of God in action, and it cannot return void. Remember this, your world is your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, guard your inner conversation for these 3 days, as though your life depends upon it, because it does so. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue with your old inner conversation, creating the same results you've always created? Or will you begin today, this moment, to maintain a new inner conversation that must create a new world? The choice is yours, but the law is absolute. Your inner conversation creates your reality, Therefore, speak to yourself for 3 days as though your desires are already fulfilled and watch your world transform. That's the message I want to leave you tonight. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Not because it's simple, but because it's powerful. Not because what you expected to hear, but because it's what you needed to hear. Remember, 3 days of proper inner conversation will transform your world every single time. And isn't that worth thinking about?